Spiritual poverty relies totally on the effectiveness of grace, with, of course, the proper response to it. And one of the blessings I give, I worked through this for a long time. May grace come upon you, blah, 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 blah. Okay? But that's not enough, really. May grace come upon you, and may you respond positively to that grace. That's the thing. God doesn't answer my prayers. Are we prepared for the receive what the gracious God wants to give us, which is the best for us? Or are we somewhere else when the good Lord comes? Spiritual poverty relies totally on the effectiveness of grace, with, of course, the proper response to it. And here is what makes us contemplatives. Being conscious of and dependent on the grace necessary for each occasion. For it is only at the particular occasion of need, when we are receptive to grace, that it is effective in us. It is living in the present moment and responding to the graces thereof. And we were talking about this at meal table. It is essential to understand that Jesus provides us with the specific graces we need at each moment, so that we are able to do what is good, what is just, and what is life-giving. But we must also realize that graces are not given to us so we can store them up for future occasions. To see a car, you're going on the highway and a car goes, whoo, and it says grace on the back of the U-Haul. That just doesn't happen with our life. We use it for now and then. It shows our trust in God in the first place, our dependence on God. Good for you, Janie. You're always trusting in me, God says, because you come to me, always in the present moment with me. It is living in the present moment and responding to the graces thereof. It is essential to understand that Jesus provides us with the specific graces at a particular moment, like I just got through saying. But we must also realize that graces are not given for us to store up. They exist for the now only. What spiritual poverty seeks is to work entirely out of love for the honor and praise of God and for the salvation of all peoples. Not to acquire to itself personal merits so as to think it deserves the heavenly kingdom. We don't go to the chapels, to the churches, like the 24/7 gyms and build up our spiritual muscle so they're just busting out all over the place and say, look at me. We don't, that's not a part, or shouldn't be a part of our mentality. Not to acquire to itself, to myself, personal merit so as to think I deserve the heavenly kingdom. There's something wrong there that we got to make redirect our intention here. Okay, as true disciples living out our poverty of spirit, we are to be working for love of God and others the best way we possibly can, and not be concerned with what we'll receive for our efforts. Let us allow God, dear sisters and brothers, let us allow God to be God in our lives by inviting God to share in and be part of all happenings and in all areas of our life. May we be unconditionally receptive and unreservedly open to God's involvement with us. And when we relate to God in this manner, poverty of spirit, grace is more effectively in us. Said another way, it is then in allowing God to love us that we are made holy. Simplicity of heart, excuse me. The nature of the disciple of Jesus, the child of God, is that of simplicity. Okay, our nature is that of simplicity. A simplicity of thinking, a simplicity of communicating, and a simplicity of acting. It is an attitude of mind and a disposition of heart in which all things, every circumstance, and each situation are considered in the context of faith and appreciated in relation to God. All is gift. All is grace. And as such, we owe God, who is our great provider, our undivided reverence and respect, our undivided attention and esteem. We are to accept, and this does not mean to condone or perpetuate whatever is harmful. We are to accept that which we cannot change, and to God leave the rest. The person who possesses the spirit of simplicity takes pleasure in what is straightforward, honest, and true. In a word, what is ordinary. Because of this, the person is more inclined to go to God with less complications and less distractions, being less divided, but with increased trust. There isn't any effort to seek out God so as to impress God with some kind of extraordinary prayer or with the sheer multiplication of words. Rather, prayer is an authentic, sincere, and to the point communication with the one whom we know loves us. One does not observe in an exaggerated or pretentious manner any devotional exercises. And with stability and steadfastness, one faces and deals with the trials and tribulations, the joys and hopes that life presents. Progress in prayer for the simple of heart is determined by our humility, acknowledging the truth of ourself as I stand before God, which is our need for God. Progress in prayer for the simple of heart is determined by our humility and by our trust in God. Thus, these two pillars of our simplicity, humility and trust, dispose us to a holiness of life. And holiness of life always draws us to a higher degree of awareness and consciousness of God, of self, and of our relationship. Of our relationships. Because we strive to become who we are, increasingly growing, developing into our true selves, we become holy. Another side here. Holiness is also a consequence. Peace is a consequence of justice, freedom, the consequence of fulfilling other obligations. Holiness is a consequence of being or becoming